This meeting will now come to order, and I will read the EPSB mission statement. The Education Professional Standards Board, in full collaboration and cooperation with its education partners, promotes high levels of student achievement by establishing and enforcing rigorous professional standards for preparation, certification, and responsible and ethical behavior of all professional educators in Kentucky. Serving as Board Secretary is Sharon Chesser. Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Amanda Ellis,
Present.
Scotty Collar,
Present.
Elijah Edwards,
Present.
Kathy Gunn,
Here.
Priscilla Keller, Jacqueline Mayfield,
Present.
Lori McKean,
Present.
Justin Mitchell,
Present.
Corinne Murphy,
Present.
Meredith Pittman, Lisa Rosinski, Vice Chair Fryer,
Present.
Chair Snell. We have quorum.
Thank you so much. Commissioner of Education, Dr. Robbie Fletcher, joins us this morning as Executive Secretary to the EPSB. I will now recognize Dr. Fletcher to give his report.
Thanks so much, Chairman. I have two topics I'll bring to everyone's attention and talk a little bit about today. The very first topic was the ESSER extension that occurred for for KDE on September 2024. We were granted an extension on approximately $54 to $56 million as part of a liquidation effort. So in September, that was one of the first things that we put in August as my actions as commissioner was to ask for that extension. And then in March 2025, we were told that it was rescinded. So all total, we have 34 different projects that are impacted. And when I say projects, there are some multiple smaller projects in some districts. For example, Boone County has 4 or 5 different projects that are together. So instead of, and not going over each one, but there are 13 that are impacted with local districts, or actually 14 if you include the Jefferson County's homeless grant. They were denied a homeless grant extension. So there's 34 projects, and they range in $269,000 to $10 million for districts. $10 million was for Laurel County with some construction, and I think the $269,000 was 2 buses in Caverna. So it ranges in different types of projects. But out of all 13 districts, only one was granted the funds after the rescission. And that was some, and I'll say partial funds. It was Boone County. And it was very small amounts, but it was all direct services to students. So that's what we're seeing across the nation is the funds that are being granted are like direct tutoring, maybe software that deals with tutoring. But for the most part, construction projects have been denied. So those are 13 districts. 14 if you include Jefferson County, because it's a separate, but it was still part of that ESSER funds that was extended. So that leaves about 20 projects that are at the state level. And for the state level, we have, I'm sorry, let me rewind back. Of the 13 districts, we do have 3 projects that have been, there has been no action whatsoever. So we've got 1 district that was approved partially. We have 3 districts that essentially have had no action. We've had some questions maybe on some of them, but no action. And we had 9 that were denied. And we have filed appeals on behalf of the districts in collaboration with the districts for each one of those, either last Friday or the Friday before. We've gotten those appeals in. From the state level, there's 2 projects that we have that have had no action. Those 2 projects deal with before and after school tutoring for our CSI schools. So there's been no action on those whatsoever. That would, to me, that seems like along the lines of what would be approved. We also have a kindergarten readiness pilot project that we have had no answer on either. But that leaves 18 other projects that have been denied. And that includes everything from the science of reading training, which is a big, one of the priorities of this administration. We have, I think, around $6.5 million that's into letters training that has been denied at this point. We have filed appeals on all 18 of those. Of course, we haven't heard anything on the 2 projects. So we're trying to follow through on the entire appeal process that's been given to us before we take any other type of action. Just as a side note, there were 16 states and also the District of Columbia that filed for a stay. They were granted a stay on 2 occasions, and they've been able to draw down funds, but there has been no end on their drawdown yet. Now, the second stay, my understanding, and talking with a lot of the other state chiefs, is there's some of their projects just haven't been answered in this appeal process. Others they've been able to draw down funds. So altogether, you're looking at approximately $52 to $54 million that's impacted for the state of Kentucky. So we're again trying to follow through with our federal delegation and trying to find out more as we move forward. The other item I'll talk to you a little bit about is our accountability model. We are heading into we are still part of the advocacy phase. We did present at the Interim Joint Committee for Education a couple weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago on Monday or Tuesday. We presented to the Interim Joint Committee. Essentially, you have our new model has two parts. There is a state part that meets federal requirements. And essentially what we're doing is we're meeting the buckets, the requirements from the federal law of saying we have to have, those parts include math and reading, summative assessments. We're looking at an adaptive model. That's one of the things we're trying to move towards, is an adaptive model, similar to what you'll see with MAP, STAR, iReady, things of that nature. And also, too, we are moving from the change component to growth. So instead of comparing third, fourth, and fifth graders from year to year, we're looking at comparing where was this student at the end of third grade and where is this student now at the end of fourth grade. So it's on individual student growth. Where did you get the child? Where did you take them? Also, too, a part of that is the ELL component of moving to a model that has a 3-year onboarding for ELL students. Right now, they're a part of the overall accountability model after 2 years. In this new model, it would be the first year the ELL students would take a test as a baseline. The second year, their growth would be calculated and be a part of the overall model. And then the third year, their status would be included. So it would take 3 years for the ELL students to be fully a part of the accountability model. We also still include transition readiness. There's been so much investment, and rightfully so. I think this has been one of the best things in my tenure as a superintendent, and also in my first year of commissioner. I really appreciate what our legislators have invested in transition readiness when it comes to dual credit, when it comes to certifications, things of that nature. I think that's been a game changer for our state, our Commonwealth. And then also, too, graduation rate is still part of that. So those pieces make up the formula where we identify CSI, TSI schools. We are actually pulling out science. It is required that we give a science assessment. It has to be uniform across the state, and it has to be reported. So the science assessment will not be a part of the formula for CSI, TSI, and things of that nature, ATSI, but it will be reported separately. They give us an opportunity to make changes that need to be changed in the science assessment. So it still will be reported. It's required from the federal aspect. Now, on the other part is really where it's the exciting part to me, is local accountability. We are encouraging, right now we have districts across the Commonwealth that are doing their own local accountability model. And to kind of give you a quick little brief sample, for example, I'll use Logan County. They have 4 pillars, a part of their local accountability model. The first pillar is student achievement. So they take state assessments, but they also take their local assessments, put it together into one pillar, and report that out there to their community. This is what their community asked for. They worked with their business partners, they worked with their teachers, they worked with their parents, they worked with faith leaders, they worked with everybody in the community to put together this model of what they'd look at. The second piece is growth. They were already doing growth. Now again, they still had to take the state assessment, they still had to report that, but they had their own growth model that was a part of their second pillar. Their third pillar really went more in depth with transition readiness. Readiness as how many students were a part of, as far as their industry certifications, things of that nature. And then the fourth piece is where there's a little more innovation there, and it's student well-being. Like one of the indicators of part of their student well-being is what percentage of their students are part of extracurricular or co-curricular activities. Because if you look at research, one of the best indicators for if a student's going to be successful is how involved are they in their high school career outside the classroom. So if students were a part of everything from the drama club in a production, a public production, their choir, or football, baseball, JROTC. So what percentage of their students were involved in extracurricular, co-curricular activities? And then they did a growth plan. I don't remember the exact percentage, but they had a certain percentage of their students, so they did a growth plan on how do we get more students involved outside. So that's a different look at a model. I would recommend looking at Fleming County. They have a dashboard. They're on their 4th iteration of a local accountability model. Shelby County has a phenomenal one. Not only do they give data, but they also have business leaders and people in the community to actually tell stories about how this is changing their community. Bullitt County and others have some great local accountability models. Also, too, if you want to take an opportunity, Jefferson County, their journey to success is a phenomenal model also, too. Now, as far as their local accountability, that's something they'll have to work on later, but their profile of a graduate, that journey to success is a national model. So we have a lot of great things going on throughout the Commonwealth, and we want that to spread. We don't want it to be pockets. We want this to be a shall. Every district shall have a local accountability model. The last thing I'll say about that is the local accountability model is not given a number. We don't give it a percentage over an overall model because we don't want a district to feel like we have to give ourselves 100% to stay off CSI status. Because one of the things that we've told everyone, if you give us a local accountability model that gives you 100%, it's not worth the paper it's written on, it's not worth the website it's published to. It's about growth. Identifying areas of need that your community identifies. What do you want to change? How do you want to grow? What are some things that need to happen within the community? And to meet those community needs, and then do a growth plan, transition plan of how do we get to that point. So that local accountability has a high potential of really making a difference, and it will. If you talk to, I've got a meeting with Rockcastle County's Superintendent Carrie Ballinger tomorrow. They went 1 year of developing a local accountability model. And she says, even if this didn't pass, there's no turning back. It's made such a difference. And the last quote I'll give is from Jesse Bacon at Bullitt County. He said, this has restored the faith of the community in Bullitt County schools. He said, this has been a game changer. And that's his word, game changer for our community to have that input as it works together. So to have an overall accountability model that makes that type of change, that's what we want for all students. We want to make sure every single student has that opportunity for what we call vibrant learning, to have that opportunity to defend to everything from internships to defenses of learning, passion projects, things of that nature, so students are very involved. So those are the 2 items that I wanted to bring up to update, and I'll take any questions that you may have on any of those, if it pleases the chairman.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any questions?
Have any of the budget impacts affected the department's ability to support CSI for those schools who are challenged at this point?
From the ESSER funds, the only change that was and I can't remember the exact number, I'd have to go back and look at it, but that would the before and after school programs that we have on the ESSER extension, that would be the impact so far. As far as Title I funding, we did receive more Title I funding this year. Now, the upcoming budget looks a little different, but for this year, Title I has increased. We have our Perkins funds has decreased maybe 7,000 out of around 22 million, so it's negligible. And our special ed funds decreased by about $500,000. Again, that's a very small percentage, and we're actually districts will not see the impact of the 500,000. We're making cuts at the state level to make sure that districts don't see any impact from that 500,000. So with what we've seen so far, we're trying to make sure, well, first of all, we're very thankful for that, the additional funds in Title I. That was great to have. But any other cuts, we're trying to make sure that districts don't see an impact for this first year. So the only impact that we've had so far is the liquidation of extension rescission that happened.
You may not know this, but were the funds for the before and after school tutoring, were there funds before ESSER that were dedicated to that work? And then ESSER came and became an opportunity, and then ESSER's now gone and it's in danger, or were they not?
There
part
were
of the
some
budget
school
already?
improvement funds that were there, but not to the extent through the extension that we have with the ESSER funds.
Thanks.
And actually, I do have the spreadsheet here of how much that is. If you give me just a second. It was $6,636,258.31 total.
Big amount.
Yes. If there are no other questions, I'll turn it over to, Dr. Ellis. I think she's next.
I am ready, yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. So just a few updates from CPE. I was just talking with several people that the summer does not slow down. It is full steam ahead. And so a few things just want to bring to your attention. Gear Up Kentucky is finishing up their 7th year of their 4th grant. We have had Gear Up Kentucky at CPE for 25 years. So we have the Kentucky has had GUK is what we call it. Of course, we have an acronym. Has been the longest running Gear Up program for state grants. We have applied for another one. As you know, lots of changes have happened at the federal level. So they reposted the RFP with significant changes. So we're taking our application and pivoting to hopefully get the grant. Money has already been set aside, but we are really advocating for those dollars because we have had significant life-changing impacts on so many students. In August, we are going to hold a open house, and I will make sure to get invitations out to you all. Our Gear Up team has taken, basically archived all the things from the last 25 years with individuals that it's impacted, and they have curated basically a Gear Up floor at CPE, and it's really incredible. And in August, we're going to invite some of those alumni to come back. We are a state grant, so we have served in 13 high schools, 12 districts that had some of the lowest college going rates. And it's not just about going to school, but it's helping to identify career aspirations, educational opportunities, and really how you help them build a future. And so we actually have lots of alumni that are quite successful in their parents' testimonies, and it's just been really incredible to be a part of it. They fall under my unit, and they're an incredible group of hardworking people who work with students. We also have folks on campuses where our students matriculate to at the highest rate, so they welcome our Gear Up scholars to help them acclimate. Many of them are first generation. Or any type of our underrepresented populations on campuses. So we have somebody to welcome them that they recognize and to get them started, and has just been really incredible. So that is coming up in August. I will get you the date and time if you are able to be around and take a walk through. We would love to have you and just celebrate our 25 years and hopefully 7 more, crisscrossing all of our fingers. In that same light, you may have seen a commercial on TV. It's called I'm In. So Gear Up hosted a competition for students, not just Gear Up students, but any high school seniors in the state when they were applying to capture the joy of being accepted and having future opportunities. And so CPE gave a $1,000 scholarship for anybody who submitted their videos. And I don't have the name of the recipient of the scholarship, but that's now in commercial. And it's super cool to see not just the students get excited, but how the parents do a dance too. Like they are cheering and dancing around or crying or celebrating. And it's just a real positive, impactful commercial that we like when it's highlighting students. That's always fun for us. A couple other quick things. Futurity is still going very strong. We get to present July 14th at the Interim Joint Committee on Futurity, which we're very excited about. A few things we're working on right now to keep you informed is military jobs, or they call MOSs. Don't ask me what the acronym is. I should know. My son is in that. But we actually have those MOSs that are aligned to credentialed and degree programs, and we're going to be putting that into Future Finder. So our young veterans who are re-entering civilian life and say, I don't know what to do, this is what I did in the military, actually there will be alignment to possible certifications and programs that can enter them into the workforce in civilian life, which is a great thing. And so that is coming in July. We're also working with KIA to get scholarships pull together state level scholarships and align those to the different career interests of folks so they can see where financial assistance is available. And so that's a bigger lift, but we have great partners. We're hoping to have that out in the fall. And we're also looking at a lifestyle calculator with Kentucky living wages, Kentucky cost of living in different regions. So when students are exploring different careers and they think, wow, that's a whole lot of money and I'm going to get me a brand new car and a brand new house, they're going to see cost of living impacts and the cost of a pet and the cost of children and groceries and things to really make it a learning opportunity. So we're working on that. I don't know exactly when that development will be done, but we have things in the hopper for sure that'll be moving forward. The big thing where we were just highlighted, and Bardstown Independent, is we were featured on KET last Monday because of our partnership with the Aero Act. And so there was an entire bill that was passed to really highlight aviation and aerospace careers. That's not just pilot or flight attendant. Those are maintenance engineers at all different education levels of what Kentucky has, and all the employers, which you would be amazed how many Kentucky has, that want to partner with our institutions 2 and 4 year to really elevate those jobs. We have a lot of industry and businesses that have moved into Kentucky, which means we have a lot of need to fly things out and to deliver. And so that would fall under our logistics and travel, or transportation, excuse me. And so on Futurity, we have a whole page on aerospace and just all the aviation positions that are at all levels, and you can check those out to see where the demand is in the partners. And so we're going to continue to do that with more of our occupations in Kentucky that are in demand and really being in good partnership. So we're excited about that. Other than that, our dual credit community of practice met last week. And that is a mixture of higher education and K-12 that are coming together to talk about challenges, quality, alignment. Kia is at that table, CPE, KDE's at the table, CTE's at the table, our 4 years and 2 years, and our districts. And so it's a great group of about 60 people who come in person in the summer to really talk about how we can improve communication, the experience for students, and what we communicate to them on the benefits of dual credit and what to avoid that could be an unintended consequence. So we're moving in the right direction and have great momentum with collaboration. So I'll stop there, Commissioner, and turn it back to you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Ellison. Again, the Futurity website has been a game changer for so many. I've been so impressed, and the numbers that are coming in are being in the
Huge.
use is awesome.
Yes,
So
we're very grateful.
thank you so much for that.
Question about that one?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to get in trouble. Okay.
So as far as the app is concerned and the MOSs for the military, is that taking into consideration a lot of the universities that already have the accreditation and alignment?
Exactly what it is.
Okay, great.
The data, actually, I'm glad you asked that, Dean Murphy, because the data already exists and it's already public. It's just never been user-friendly if you're not an analyst. And so we have taken those things. So the occupational report, the students' right to know, the MOSs that align to our campuses that already have programs, and credit for prior learning, all of those were in separate databases and in Tableau, and that's great for the everyday user. How do you put all that together? So that's why we're putting it all together to show how it all fits.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you for asking about that.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Dr. Ellison. Any other questions? Again, thank you for that report from the Council on Post-Secondary Education. And this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Meredith Brewer with the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness.
Good morning. It is always a pleasure to come and brag about the amazing Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness. If we could pull up the slides, please, Megan. Perfect, thank you. If we go to the next slide. So in keeping with tradition, I'm going to start by gushing about our new website. So if you'll go to the next slide, I have some stats to share with you from the analytics that we pull. So as of last night, we have had 46,000 unique users that have visited the website, and they have implemented 525,000 events. And an event is when a user clicks on something. So 525,000 engagements with the website. You can see the average amount of time spent on the website is 1 minute and 16 seconds, which with how organized it is, I'm sure they were getting the answer they needed in 1 minute. But we are excited to, in particular, point out the bounce rate, which Gary, who is the amazing web designer in OET, had to teach me about analytics so that I could share with you exactly what this means. But if you look at, for example, the certification webpage, we have a 5.1% bounce rate. And a bounce rate is the percentage of sessions that were not engaged sessions. So where they didn't spend some time clicking or engaging with that particular page. So you can see that for the certification page, we have a very low bounce rate. So when people go to that certification page, they are engaging, clicking out, getting answers to questions about certification. The other page that I think is really exciting to see a low bounce rate is that Find Your Path. If you recall, that's where we have those columns that show sort of the different entry points and how you can navigate to a complete certification. So really excited that we have good engagement and that we have people who are spending time on the website learning. If we can go to the next slide. This shows how people are coming to the website. And this is another metric that we can use to speak to the success of our campaign. You can see that either by Googling, Go Teach KY, or entering some sort of Google search that leads them to the website. We've had 25,000 of our users, first-time users, coming to the website. But of particular note, the direct access, so where they're typing in to the web address, goteachky.com, we've had 14,000. We're going to assume, and I think it's safe for us to assume, that that is a direct result of our billboards, our commercials, and our communication about the website. So people are remembering the web address and going there directly to get information. We also have some that are attending or visiting the website from the KDE redirect or from some of our other locations where we have links and they're clicking to go to the website from there. You can also see that we have pretty consistent returning users. So that is something that we wanted to see, where this isn't just for people exploring certification, it is also a resource for our in-service educators. So we have people coming back and utilizing the resources on the website. Next slide. Speaking of that amazing commercial that we have, as I shared previously, it is on streaming platforms. And so you can see that from our commercial, we have had 568,000 impressions, so people who have engaged or viewed the commercial. One thing that I thought was exciting, 98.68% completion rate. So they are engaged enough that they're watching the full commercial. If you can go ahead and go to the next slide. We also had, as part of our contract with Spectrum, some static ads that would show up at the bottom of streaming services. And so you can see that we had over 200,000 impressions from that, only 141 clicks. So we had only 141 people that clicked on it at that time to go visit the website. But I'm sure if they were watching their favorite movie or TV show, maybe they made a note to remember the web address and go and visit it later. So we're excited to see that engagement. Just for your awareness, as far as network streaming, the number one ranking was Amazon Ads, and then Spectrum News, Fox News, and MSNBC for the most frequent impressions. And then on streaming TV, Roku and third-party apps were the most frequently viewed on these static ads. All right, next slide. So I had shared that part of our campaign was visits, regional visits, and I know that Dr. Mitchell was able to engage with our visit to Bowling Green, but Miles, who is the assistant director in the Division of Communications, is an amazing videographer, and he's been making videos for the department, and he was able to go with our team down to Bowling Green for our first regional visit, and he produced this video, so we wanted to share it with you today.
Hi, I am Dr. Vita Stewart with the Division of Educator Recruitment and Development, and we are live today, going live with Go Teach KY. We launched our campaign in April, and now we are visiting our schools and our community. We're here to celebrate and elevate the profession, to recruit the next generation of teachers, and to keep the great and amazing teachers that we have already in the profession. So this is a joy for us. This is a great opportunity for us, and Go Teach KY is live.
Hi, I'm Robert Lightning here at Bowling Green Junior High School. I'm the principal here, and just want to say thank you to the Kentucky Department of Education for stopping by, bringing a few gifts for our staff to show their appreciation for all that our staff does on a daily basis for our students. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ellie Gilbert. I'm the Assistant Director in the Division of Educator Recruitment and Development. And tonight we have a community event that celebrates our educators. And we picked the Bowling Green area to start with first. And we have had great representation from the community. We have a library representative, community ed, all the colleges in the area. So it's been really, really nice to hear the conversations about what each individual has to offer, those different parts of education. So those are great for teachers to connect. Our goal was for networking and for celebration. We are enjoying our cupcakes and our food truck, and it's just been a really fun night.
Go inspire, go lead, go teach.
Let's take a moment and just appreciate how wonderful that is. So we are excited that we will have additional regional events throughout the year. So hopefully coming to a community near you, we would love for you to join us if your schedules permit. If we can go to the next slide. Chair Snell did ask that I provide an update on the member bios that we are working on the website. And so the first published biography that we have is of Chair Snell. So on the website, the KDE website, when you go to EPSB, to the board members page, each of you have a picture there that indicates your term as well as who you are representing. If you click on Chair Snell's photo, it takes you to this page. This is populated, if we go to the next slide, from the survey or the form that you filled out with that information, highlighting some of the answers that you provided. So if you have not completed that form and would like to have your profile developed, please go ahead and submit that form. If you have any photos of you engaging with students or in your school environment that you would like us to have on there, you can submit those as well. All right, next slide. The last thing I wanted to share is just sort of an overview of certification processing. We are entering into the busy season. As you can see from July of 24, the number of applications that process as well as July of 23 go up significantly in the summer. So our certification team is preparing for their busiest time of the year, but you can see that they are hard at work making sure that all of our educators have the appropriate credentials to be in the classroom. And so it's very exciting for us to be able to show this long-term view of all of the certifications that they have reviewed and processed. Happy to entertain any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brewer. And we kind of joked in the first, we looked at, there's a reason why they've been giving us data on unique users, because out of the first 5,000, we're pretty sure that Meredith was 4,750 visits. So she just kept coming back and saying, have you seen how beautiful this is? And she'd go show it to someone. So, but again, we really appreciate the work of Dr. Brewer and the staff in OELE for the hard work. And the website it's a great collaboration with OET. It's really engaging. It's navigable. It's great. So if you have the opportunity, please look into that. And again, too, going back to Futurity is another great addition when it comes to a tool for our students, for our educators, that as we move forward, too. So again, very happy with those two reports. Thank you so much to each. And at this time, I'll turn it back to our Vice Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Fletcher, and thank you, Dr. Ellis and Dr. Brewer, for your reports as well. Ms. Chester, has anyone signed up for Open Speak? Thank you. Did want to give a quick shout out to Chair Snell, who's overseas, and hope she's having a great trip. And speaking of Chair Snell, there's an item in our report of chair we wanted to put on today. On the June 4th meeting, our EPSB team met with the Kentucky Board of Education to hear a presentation on the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness and how the office serves both boards. Chair Snell and I have a follow-up meeting with the KBE chairs in July to talk about potential areas for collaboration and potential next steps. Before that meeting, Chair Snell and I wanted to provide an opportunity for our board members to share any thoughts from the joint meeting, what you possibly envision for collaboration moving forward, or any other appropriate thoughts. So I'll open the floor to our board if anyone has anything they'd like to share.
I just want to say thank you to Meredith and to our team for a lovely presentation that day. I think they did a nice job of articulating the legislative components of each board and the responsibilities of each board. And I think it was interesting, the questions that were posed that day. It's clear to me that there's interest from members of each board in the operations of each board. And those are, of course, are legislated. And so I would offer that we have an opportunity and a responsibility to maintain our roles within our board operations. And I do hope that there are common areas for conversation, but I would offer that they are distinct boards and are legislated to operate that way.
I just think it was a good opportunity for us to identify areas that we need to communicate. I think some of the roles I think would be helpful, and perspectives, even from a lot of times folks will say or have questions about ed prep programs. And we left it to Corinne to speak for all public and private ed prep programs, not because she chose to, is because she happened to be here that day. And so I think it is something for the board to consider how we educate, I think, our own board and others on the rapid changes. I know KDE has had presentations, and Melissa has shared her work and progress, but it may be good to put that as a continuing piece on our board meeting to stay informed of those ever-changing standards and updates and things that they're facing. I think we probably know the least about that, and it would be good to give Corinne a little support with other colleagues of hers and what the institutions are doing and how that aligns to the legislation and the priorities over, especially when reading and mathematics was brought up. There's a lot of effort that goes in, a lot of General Assembly dollars that are going in. And so I think it's important that we know what both sides are doing, because there's a lot of work that's happening in higher education and in K-12. And so I think being informed will help us be better informed as a board, and probably for KBE to understand as well what's going on. I think is always helpful.
I would say, as one, it was a great presentation. Thank you for that. Thank you, Corinne, for answering a lot of questions that day, and you did a wonderful job at that as well. I'd say for maybe future, and if I know there's been discussion of work groups of what that looks like, I think the biggest thing, if there are requests that they'd like for our board to look at, I think maybe if they figure out what those asks are as an individual board might be a first good step for them. I've still yet to figure out what their ask is. I know there is an ask, but what is that specifically? And if there was something that our board was wanting to work on that we would say that we would advise KBE to maybe to look at, I think that might be a better best step than just all of us getting in a room again together and going from there. So if there is things, I think I would love to hear what those asks are. I have yet to hear those over the last few years. I just know that they're sort of broad statements. So I think that would help going forward. If there is, I know that there was in that Venn diagram chart that we looked at, there were definitely things in the center that overlap, but I think some of the possible requests are things that fall outside of those. And so I would like to see what those are before maybe meeting together.
I felt like I heard one of the asks was workforce development and teacher recruitment, and I believe with the presentation, we're starting to get the ball rolling on addressing that so they can see that coming to fruition. So I felt like that was the beginning of a good working relationship. That's what I observed.
Does anyone have any other comments? Please, Dr. Fletcher.
I thought it was a great additional step for communication. And if you look at, again, part of that presentation is where they are two distinct boards. They are set out legislatively of the roles of each board, but there are some overlap. And then if one group is advocating, as we look at anything as it relates to educator licensure and effectiveness, how do we work together to advocate together for different opportunities? But again, I think that addressing our workforce is a key component there. But I felt like that meeting was a good first step in continuing strong communications. So I look forward to what we work together, and I know that both chairs and vice chairs are going to be working together to talk more, so that if we look at groups, then maybe we don't have to meet together as a group. We can look at smaller committees through the chair and vice chair of both groups. So I think that that's going to be a key component of this, is starting with the great communication that's going on already between our chair and vice chairs of both boards, and then how can we work together on, if one of us is advocating for a certain item, when I say one of us, one of the boards is wanting to advocate for a certain part, then how can both boards be of service to each other? So again, I really like that first step that we had with everyone together. But to Mr. Mitchell's point, as we move forward, as that communication builds, how can we work together? And then there's some things that we may have to work separately on.
I would also offer that as the chairs discuss how to move forward, a series of norms for operating would be helpful for a constructive period of time together. I think the assumption that if you are not involved, it's not happening is a dangerous assumption, and for lack of a better way to phrase it, that is very much what it felt like, to at least be on the recipient end of the questions that were asked that day.
I think just to follow up that comment, I wasn't necessarily going to share anything during this part. I will say on the record that we have really fantastic EPPs across our state. Dr. Diebel and her team do a fantastic job with the accreditation process and making sure our colleges are best serving our future teacher workforce. And not that I don't think that's necessarily in question, but I know there were a couple interesting questions that you had to field. And I just want to make sure on record that I say how strongly I feel on that front. I also know that Dr. Ellis and some others made some good comments that there is a lot of teachers in the workforce. And when we think about percentage of where people are, who is in a pre-service state right now and who's actually in the trenches, right? We've got a much bigger pocket of impact, I think, on those teachers in the trenches. So I think when we think about some common ground work, I think that's where a lot of that could lie. Does anyone have anything else to share? I really appreciate everyone's feedback there. I know that Chair Snell was especially interested to hear this. She said she might be streaming the meeting to listen in. So thank you guys for taking time to share some thoughts. We're now going to go ahead and move on to the consent items. Items A through T are listed on the agenda as consent items. I'm going to go ahead and give members a moment to review the list. Does anyone wish to remove any of the items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Having received no request to remove items from the consent agenda, can I have a motion to approve consent items A through T?
I make a motion to approve consent items A through T.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. The motion before the board is to approve consent items A through T. All in favor? Do we have any discussion to have there? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed, say nay. The motion carries. Today, we have one information item. This item is presented to the board for review and discussion only by Mr. Todd Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Vice Chair. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. Excited to share some of the work that's occurred over the last several months with our certification structure work group. If you recall, back in October, the board allocated the efforts to move forward, looking at our grade bands and our credential structures to see if it meets our district's needs, and then determine, if not, what we could recommend as a group. So, Megan, can we get, oh, it's showing. Thank you. If you'll remember, Dr. Fletcher mentioned in the December meeting, the work group as we were moving forward, we were very diligent and selective in our group, trying to allocate a very strong work group and include as many roles from district's perspective, a state perspective as well, and including legislators in that. So you can see the list of organizations that we partnered with. We had teachers, building administrators, district administrators, HR directors, special ed directors, as well as the legislators. So we appreciate all the efforts, and I do not want to forget our EPP partners were critical in this venture as well. We charged the group, initially we kicked off in January with our meetings, and essentially, as I mentioned, we were looking at our grade band structure to see if it met our needs from the district's perspective. In that process, looking at national and state data, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in a minute, but then get some feedback from our district partners as well. After looking at that, we wanted to prepare a recommendation, which is what we're here for today. But then additionally, want to explore options for streamlining our old certification structures into a singular process as we possibly can. For instance, our credentials that we still utilize today, there are 9 different credentials for elementary alone. So very confusing for teachers, administrators, and districts, as well as staff here sometimes. So we hope to move forward with that as well. As I mentioned, we kicked off in January. We met monthly. We determined the root causes for the challenge. So we asked the group to specifically look, is it really about our grade band structure, or is it more about permissions? And so we got into some really good discussions about that. And the outcome was, yes, it was both. And so I don't think the group essentially started with, they thought that it was K-8 would probably be the route to go, K-8 and 7-12, which is a model that we previously had here in the state. But then as we look at things, and we'll talk about some of those things here in a few minutes, how we progressed to a different approach for that, just perceiving that the K-8 model provides flexibility, but there's also a lot of other things that come with that. We looked at data from a state perspective. We looked at all the different configurations here in the state, and I'll have to say I was completely blown away with the differences. But we did dig into that, as well as national data and then bordering states data. So I'll have to say thank you to Dr. Stunson from Western Kentucky University, the Middle School Association that he works with, provided some national data that we utilized quite extensively through this process. So I want to thank him for that. We surveyed our CACD group, our EPP partners, surveyed pre-service teachers, and I was completely blown away with over 900 responses from that survey in about a 2-week period. So hats off to them. They did a phenomenal job, and appreciate the feedback that we got there. And then the feedback from districts as well. So we utilized our stakeholder group to seek out those types of feedback from our districts. What are the challenges? And then our education preparation providers, our EPPs, they also brought a different perspective to this, because looking at credentials can be quite simple until then you start looking at how do we prepare our teachers. And so one thing I do want to mention from the get-go, developing high-quality teachers who remain in classrooms was their effort and their goal. But then looking at the impact on the curriculum, so they were able to share, looking at different models, what it would do, what challenges would cause with preparing our new teachers. They also had to consider those requirements for the accreditation that CJ mentioned earlier. So those things were always in the discussions, but then overall, how can we provide flexibility, maybe increase some overlap so that there is some flexibility with our districts. As I mentioned, K-8 and 7-12 was the initial one from feedback from folks, but then as we got into it, some of the challenges with ed prep going back to a K-8 and preparing teachers is a challenge. While it may provide flexibility in one sense, it would create massive changes and overhauls with our EPP programs and institutions. But then also, as we move forward, we had to consider what does this do to our teachers as well. So got quite a bit of feedback that a K-8 model, that if I prefer teaching middle school, I may not want to teach elementary, but then that may be the only option that I have in the district that I'm at, and be forced to move there, as well as preparing to move forward. Where are we going to get? Obviously, the goal was to increase our enrollment. Does that, cause problems and create barriers because people want middle school or they just want elementary and they don't want to add those credentials? So as we move forward, the group met in May, and each one of these we voted individually till we got to a certain point and everybody was all on board, but it was a unanimous decision. With interdisciplinary preschool, we had many discussions on the pre-K 3 model that some states utilize. We also discussed moving the interdisciplinary piece, that requirement. The challenge with that is our special education programs do not provide the learning that is needed and the support that's needed to prepare our teachers to teach birth to primary. And so looking at all of those, we as a group chose to stay with the pre-K kindergarten approach, but then the recommendation for consideration is to add an endorsement that would allow some of those preschool teachers to add those 1 through 3 grades, and then considering also the impact that this has on our early literacy and numeracy efforts and preparation as we move forward as well. Then elementary, there's not much change with elementary. If you recall, in October I shared 6th grade could be taught. It was K-5. 6th grade could be taught if it was in the same building as 5th grade or if it was self-contained. And so it made sense for the group just to move forward with the K-6 and extend that just one grade level. Again, minor adjustments for our ed prep providers. Sometimes that's relative. Minor could be major, but depending on the programs, there shouldn't be a major overhaul for those programs. And then it allows the continued focus on the early literacy and numeracy. Middle grades, we kept the highest level at 9 and extended it down 1 grade to make it a 4-9. Again, aligns a little bit better with nationally with majority of states that utilize this model. Again, minor adjustments for our ed prep providers. What it does allow is those content teachers to teach down to 4th and 5th grade for those elementary schools that do departmentalize. So it might create some challenges with our elementary folks and how they set up their schedules, but could provide flexibility in who can teach those courses. And so, again, keeping that model does not force the efforts that a K-8 would to include those literacy and numeracy efforts to the level that elementary does. And then secondary, again, just increasing the grade band width 1 level for 7th grade down to 7th grade was the decision of the group. It maintains that, like I say, the highest grade, but 7th grade, what it allows there is we've seen over the last several years, courses for graduation requirements be met at the middle school level. And the challenge is who can teach those courses. Algebra, for instance, it's very common now for eighth graders to receive algebra during their middle school years. And it is looking like it is headed toward seventh grade as well. So that's just one example. But again, would allow those contents to be taught by the same teachers. And then considerations for future work. Again, looking at permissions. This was one that we had to redirect several times, and it's easy to get involved in those discussions because we know the sciences are a huge challenge right now. Special education is another one. So the group expressed a lot of interest in moving forward and having those discussions. How can we do that to provide more flexibility, increase our numbers for sciences and math, as well as special education, and then explore avenues. So one thing is with this model. So the K-8 was very restrictive, and so this approach with the overlap that it creates, if we have ways, innovative ways to add credentials, then you can essentially get to the same model, that K-8 model, with dual credentials, or by adding a credential at a later time. So we have the highly qualified route, we have the proficiency route. How can we strengthen those to allow our teachers to expand their opportunities? And then, as I mentioned earlier, explore options for streamlining the deprecated credentials that we have now. And again, this model aligns probably the best out of all the ones that we've seen that would allow us to do that. So those were the types of things that we would like to move forward with the group. And so that is our recommendation for your consideration for discussion and the possibility of moving forward, and then efforts that we need to do moving forward. So I'll take any questions.
I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking, but here I go anyway. So certainly appreciate the efforts of all the groups. I've lost track of how many people you all have talked to get feedback on all this. So massive effort. One question that I do have around, and the feedback that I get a lot from superintendents, is with respect to math teachers and the unlikelihood that a math teacher will end up teaching the very advanced trigonometry, calculus kinds of things that are necessary in order to actually pass the current praxis, and that there was some sort of differentiated, and I'm butchering this, CJ, but you know what I'm talking about. If there was some way to distinguish between I'm good at teaching math and I can just be a great regular high school math teacher versus I need to be able to teach like the super advanced. And if there was a way to help districts in that hiring process, or I don't know if that came up at all.
It did, as well as the sciences, looking at that. And so we've had some very preliminary conversations with CPE and looking at potential ways that we may be able to adjust our major framework, and looking at some of the other states allow an education major for math or sciences, where you maybe have a concentration in an area while it prepares you to teach all subjects in the sciences, but then the higher levels may require some of those more advanced degrees as well. So you could get into all kinds of things, models that could help accommodate that. But yes, it did come up, and that is part of the work that we would like to move forward with.
That's great. I'm glad it was a yes, and I'm glad you let me ask the question, because if not, Terry Morgan in Hardin County would come and throttle me. So I'm just putting that out there.
My small just comment on that question, though, would be those foundational courses of like an Algebra 1 are so critical, and a teacher who's just barely scraping by to understand the bigger picture, right? I'm worried about that I don't know. I get your question, and I think there's definitely a conversation to be had there, but I would caution, that really your best teachers in your math department should be teaching your Algebra 1 course, and really your maybe newer teachers or not as experienced can really handle an AP Calculus. Do you know what I mean? It's a backward thinking of how schools usually set it up, but really if you read like Catalyzing Change from NCTM, the whole framework is your best teachers should be in those foundational courses, and maybe some still emerging teachers should be in the more advanced courses.
Congrats, CJ. You just got added to the list of people to talk to next after they call.
Great, please. I see
Like,
some good friends
I
in the
appreciate
audience.
what
I
you're
see some good
saying.
friends
Now
in the
go.
audience who should join that
Go
conversation.
talk to CJ.
Too. Yeah. But no, I do understand your question. It's good.
You are talking to
Hiring
two
question.
calculus
Yes.
teachers that are on
Right.
the, sitting next
Right.
to each other, so.
Well, it feels like a backward model, but it's
It's it's a structure and staffing question from
correct.
their
I
perspective, right?
totally understand that
Yeah.
perspective.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you because I like, and this is a personal comment, but I really like the change because I was an elementary school teacher first and I taught AP math, which meant I taught sixth grade math content. Then when I moved to middle school, I was unable to teach sixth grade math. It was the same content. So I thought that was really odd. And so I'd liked seeing that being corrected because math was my passion, but I ended up teaching social studies for years. So I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that appreciate being able to use their knowledge to help all the kids.
Thank you.
Anyone have any other comments or questions? I know Dr. Mitchell also served on the task force, so thank you, Dr. Mitchell. A lot of moving pieces, so Mr. Davis, thank you for everything you did to orchestrate that. Was the May meeting the last current one in the books? I know like that last slide talked about possible future work.
Yes,
Okay.
that was the final one for
Perfect.
for
For that.
determining the grade band recommendation for
Perfect.
you to consider. But yes, would like to move forward.
Sounds great.
With some of these other discussions.
Yeah. Well, and I know you made it clear in your presentation, but I know we have EPP representation in the back. The domino effect of even little changes is huge. But I do think these changes are long overdue, and I think they're going to be ultimately good for our profession and the workforce. And I'm just thankful that we have such a good group of stakeholders who are willing to think about some modest early changes and then looking ahead to potential future work down the road. So thank you again.
I speak very highly of our work group. They were very engaged and very determined to get to what they felt was the best models.
So just a clarification, do we need to, I know this is an information item, do we need to vote to charge the group to move forward, or is that just part of the makeup of the additional, like it's been created and continue doing the good work?
So today it was just before you as an information item. From there, what Todd Davis will do is take this and with the feedback and start looking at the next steps, what can come before you for immediate action and what the implementation is overall, and bring that back at a future meeting as an item to vote on.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no further discussion, we will now move on to the action items for the day. These next items are presented to the board for action and will require a motion and a vote. Action item A is presented by Dr. Melissa Diebel.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I can be organized. We've heard a lot about AQUEP the last few months, but they have now submitted to us an updated MOA, and so those should have been provided to you. And last meeting, they submitted their updated standards to their 2025 standards. The MOA is very similar to what we had before. And so just to highlight a couple things, they do work to approve all programs registered with or recognized by the state. So when they go through the accreditation process, the EPP's programs, everything registered with us will go through the accreditation. They have kind of a dual, they have a slight different system in that the EPP will pick someone to be a part of the team, so from a school district, and then we also have a state representative that is part of their team that goes through the accreditation process. This is unique in the sense that it gives a real Kentucky context to the visit so that the reviewers can have a full understanding of what our goals and objectives are. The The accreditation status, you guys approved their initial accreditation status last year, or last meeting, which is good for 5 years for their initial onboarding, but their traditional continued review is good for 7 years. So they continued with that. All copies of reports and letters come officially to the EPSB, so you are always welcome to review any of the things that they find. And then the state retains or EPSB retains the right to approve all programs. So while AQEP looks at the accreditation of the programs, we actually approve the individual programs, the EPSB does. So we currently have 4 institutions that are using AQEP, UK, Thomas More, Moorhead, and Midway. And I know there are some affiliate members that are working with them as well. But that is kind of a overall summary of the MOA. I don't know if there were any questions or... Okay.
Okay.
And I think you guys can carry
Okay,
on.
thank you. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. A second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to approve the partnership agreement. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next, we have action item B.
All right, thank you. And this is for our work group, and I have Dee Cristelli with me to answer all of your questions because I am not as well versed in mathematics as some other people. So the numeracy cohort.
Dee
which
was a
is-
good person to bring, by the way.
Yes,
so,
yes. She's been invaluable member of our team, so it's been great. And just to highlight a thank you for all mentioning the work groups. We do a lot. The numeracy group and the literacy group do a lot behind the scenes, and I think maybe we do need to be a little bit more like, let's give you lots of updates. So, but here's our newest one. The numeracy cohort formed by the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness under the high quality instructional resources work met in August, September, and October. You all approved rubrics that we wanted to pilot. We did pilot 4 rubrics in the spring of 25, and feedback was provided by the faculty across multiple teacher preparation contexts. So they looked at things in math methods, student teachers, regular methods classes, elementary methods, MAT methods, so just all across the gamut of all of those things. The KMIT received the highest ratings and therefore is the one being recommended. The KMIT was appreciated for its comprehensive nature, clear indicators, and structured categories, making it generally objective and easy to use, especially for those with a math background who were able to identify rubric components effectively and support their scores with specific examples. Many found the tool user-friendly, concise, and simple to apply without formal training, particularly with its 3-category rating system and suitability for shorter observations. Users valued the descriptive clarity and Likert scale for helping place teachers along a continuum, and many expressed a desire for proper training to fully leverage the instrument's capabilities. We have since had further meetings and decided that we would probably do 2 meetings. One would be kind of a overview of math concepts that should be foundational to using the observation in case there are people that don't have that strong math background that would be using the tool, and then a second follow-up meeting or training on the actual use of the tool. So that's kind of our plan moving forward. So our recommendation is that you approve the KMIT as the rubric to use in EPP starting this fall to meet the legislative requirements. And Dee is here for your questions, so throw out all of your KMIT questions.
Any questions before the motion? Well, thank you for now. So go ahead. I will need a motion again. We'll have discussion after the motion, so we can take some extra questions. But if there's a motion now, I'll take it.
I make the motion to approve the KMIT as the numeracy rubric.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. McKean. The motion before the board is to approve the KMIT as the numeracy rubric. Any discussion or questions for Dr. Diebel and Dr. Cristelli? I'll ask. Well, this is the part I geeked out about the most in the open agenda material, so I was excited reading through all this. I like your note, Dr. Diebel, that even without formal training, it's simplistic enough, simplistic in a good way, that someone could use the instrument, right? But I do think that training is going to be paramount. I know you mentioned the two that we're talking about offering. Potentially, those would just be like virtual, easily accessible, right, through.
Yeah,
Like-
we talked about doing different versions, but I think we're going
Yeah.
to do virtual, and I think we're going to do videos.
Okay, great.
So if we can create modules, we've talked a little bit about that too.
Love that. And then also, like, I know, like, in the numeracy academies, there's the specific one for admin, right? PIMSR's running that one. Am I right? Is this, like, do we know if they're incorporating, once this is fully approved, use of the instrument, or?
I believe. Okay, it didn't work. All right. So I believe that one thing to know is that this Kentucky Mathematics Innovation Tool is already in use in multiple venues across the Commonwealth. So lots of folks are actually already familiar with using it. So I know that many of the administrators that are participating in that program have actually already been through some initial training with this. I think we're going to see this sort of expand and be used in many other places because it is a really nice tool. It actually is based on those math teaching practices that you referenced in the Principles to Action earlier. And so I do think we'll see this everywhere. I do not know specifically what lives in that PIMSR training, however.
Perfect. Anyone else have any questions or discussion?
I don't think anybody geeked out as much. As
I mean,
did
you know,
that
come on.
particular area, so.
Okay, so so again, just to recap, the motion before the board is to approve the KMET as a numeracy rubric. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. Thank you again. We'll next move on to action item C.
Okay, for this one, this is the 16KR 5040 extension of student teacher waivers. So since 2020, the EPSB has approved waivers allowing experiences that a student teacher acquired as an emergency certified substitute teacher to meet the requirements of student teaching and allowing all student teaching observations to be performed remotely for all ed preps. Due to positive feedback, the EPSB has continued to approve these waivers annually. Additionally, at the July 2023 meeting, the EPSB approved a waiver to allow student teachers to maintain classified employment for the 23-24 school year. The EPSB reviewed proposed amendments to 16KR 5040, that incorporated these waivers. The EPSB indicated that they wanted the waivers to be incorporated and approved the waivers for the 24-25 school year. So what this is to approve remote student teaching observations for all educator preparation programs, waive 16KR 5040, Section 5.7, to allow student teachers to maintain classified employment and allow student teachers to receive funds from the student teacher stipend program, and then allow experiences that a student teacher acquires as an emergency certified substitute teacher to meet the requirements of student teaching.
Thank you. I will again need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you,
approve.
Dr. Murphy. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to extend the student teaching waivers. Any discussion?
I will just offer that from an EPP perspective, there's every EPP is doing a really good job, I think. I can't say every, but I would assume of vetting and making sure that the diligence applied to a virtual evaluation is just as much as the in-person. And with the many, many challenges that Kentucky continues to face, whether it's weather or illness or whatever, and it varies so much across the state, that this level of flexibility is really appreciated by the EPPs because it means our student teachers can actually complete their student teaching experiences as planned, and that's really important.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. And the motion carries. Action item D is presented by Allie Green.
So Allie is actually traveling out of the country and hopefully having a wonderful time. So I'm going to present this on her behalf.
Thank you, Dr. Brewer.
So as you recall, during the 2024 session, there was a sort of last-minute addition to create the Kentucky Educator Mentorship Program. And part of that legislation asked that the EPSB identify best practices for educator induction and mentor programs. As part of that, it was a requirement that every district offer a mentor or induction program, mentorship program. However, because of that requirement, it did preclude districts from using Title II Part A funds. And so because of that, in this last session, in House Bill 48, which was a red tape reduction bill, there was some language change that changed the KEMP from a required program to a strongly recommended program, still charging the EPSB with identifying those best practices aligned with the components in the statute, and added a requirement that any district that chose to not offer an induction program would be named by EPSB in a report to the Legislative Research Commission. So as part of that, we needed to update our guidance document to remove that language that spoke to requirements, and so it is more recommended best practices in the guidance document. And because I had the opportunity to do so, I also made it look very pretty. So there is some additional graphic elements to it that hopefully will call out some of the kind of recommendations. So that is what we're bringing forward to you today, is sort of just those minor language changes. The content has not changed substantially. So what was recommended previously that you all reviewed and approved is retained in there. Those are really kind of ongoing and longstanding best practices for induction programs. Just a little glitzier version.
Thank you, Dr. Brewer. Is there a motion?
I make the motion to approve the amended guidance.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Second?
Second.
Ms. Mayfield, thank you. The motion before the board is to approve the amended guidance. Any discussion?
Thank you for the continued work on this. I would just say that I'm still pushing for that to, maybe we could clear up that language that it is required and fully funded by the state. Would be continually what I'm been pushing for since 2018, is that we would go back to fully funding that requirement. So I'm thinking about our larger districts that have the means to provide really good mentorship programs are doing that, and because they have the means to do that. And so I'm fearful for our smaller districts who don't, whether they're using that Title II funding for something else, that funding be provided by the state. So that would be my hope moving forward into this next General Assembly session, that maybe we could say that it is required and we're going to fund that again.
And that is one of the additional budget requests that we've submitted to hopefully secure that funding, because we do know that those programs are invaluable for our educators and are a huge factor in retention. So we would prefer that everyone have the funding to have the highest quality program possible. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are great comments, Dr. Mitchell. I was waiting for you to say something, but it's important. I know, Justin, you did a great job advocating for this through the years. And when we think about joint potential advocacy with KBE, this could be an area that we potentially have some joint advocacy on. Dr. Brewer, I know you just left, so I don't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry. But when we mentioned that the list would be provided to the EPSB of districts that do not, right? I guess a couple questions on that. Like, A, do we know the timeline of that? And then B, is it simply this is just the schools, districts that did not? Or is there any kind of questionnaire like, why did you not? Like, was it a funding issue? Was it you didn't think it was helpful for your district? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Just so
Yes.
we can take that information and maybe do something with it.
So there was a reporting requirement with the original legislation. So when KEMP was created, there was an expectation that by October 1st of each year, we provide a report. And it was specific to some of the implementation recommendations. So time spent with a mentor, the number of educators in the program, how funding was spent, some of those sort of components. So we have previously drafted reports that we've shared with those specific statistics. With this most recent report that we have due October 1, we fielded a survey to all districts that captures that information, but we've embedded some of the elements from the new teacher survey that used to be in place with KTIP. And so there was a piece of the survey that went to new teachers that were in the induction program, as well as their mentors, to speak to some of their observations as to preparedness to be in the classroom. And that's some information that we didn't have previously. I imagine we'll continue with a version of that survey. The language change in 48 isn't just do you have a program or not? Do you have a program that embeds those recommended components of best practice that EPSB has approved? So we will need to reframe some of the questions. So it's not just, click the boxes of what you do have or don't have, because there was flexibility previously. Here it will be, if you don't have that, then we'll need to ask some additional questions to figure out what were some of those decision points. So that will be due October 1. So September 15th is the closing date for this year's survey, which is reflective of the past school year's program. And then we'll field another survey next year to capture that information.
That's helpful. Thank you. Any other discussion or questions since I made Dr. Brewer come back to the table?
No, I have to. I can just stay here.
And the updated guidance does look very pretty. You and your team always do a great job with that stuff. So hopefully that will just persuade people enough to do it. Okay, so as a reminder, if there's no other discussion, the motion is to approve the amended guidance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. And the motion carries. Thank you again. Next, we have action item E presented by Ms. Cassie Trueblood.
So since this impacts Nora's work, I've also pulled her up to the table with us. But action item E is an amendment to the procedures for EPSB action on a certificate. And this is in light of the changes from Senate Bill 181, which I'm sure nobody has heard about recently. That goes into effect on June 27th. And so we have provided for you an amendment to the procedures that just aligns with that statutory language. That is included on really pages 3 and 4 of the procedures. You'll see there we did the track changes, so it can be included. Again, to align with that new statutory language, Senate Bill 181 is the telecommunications, traceable communications bill. With this, it has created Kentucky Revised Statute 160-145, which sets out what you're hearing about most, about that requirement that electronic communication with a student be through the designated traceable communication systems. And then it also made some amendments to KRS 161-120, which is the statute that outlines your educator case process. So there in the staff note, you do have the 3 provisions from that bill that are really specific to EPSB. And those are what we have updated the procedures with accordingly. This is our first step at making these updates. Staff is going to meet next week to dive into this a little bit further and about potential guidance that may be needed because, one issue with this is principals and a requirement that is placed on principals now to report directly to EPSB. The way the system's set up is for superintendents to have that ability to report. So adding in some guidance for our principals, and then also addressing some of the more far-reaching scenarios that we have seen out there. For instance, I think there was some concerns that if you post on a public Facebook page and a student then comments on your post, that teacher needs to be reported to EPSB. That is not what this is addressing here. That with a public post, you cannot control if an individual that you're not friends with is commenting on that. So just looking at some of those scenarios and bringing that back to you, hopefully in July, with some additional guidance as we start the school year. But for these updates, again, if you look at pages 3 and 4 of the procedures, we have that there to set the time for the complaint review, because now under this, if you receive a complaint alleging did I lose? Okay. Unauthorized electronic communication, sexual contact, or other sexual misconduct, that gives you 120 calendar days. So we have added that language in to allow the review to happen during that time if needed. Also specifying that staff can seek additional information from public sources in either scenario, if we're on that 30-day timeline or the 120-day. But if we do need the 120 days, there's some additional sources that staff can reach out to at that time. And then also one issue that does come up immediately with this is the requirement that if there is a complaint that has come in and it's from a non-superintendent source, and there's minor included in it, and it's alleging that sexual contact, sexual misconduct, that is to be kept confidential. And while we can keep that confidential from the public, we cannot keep that confidential from the educator if a case is initiated. So we have made that distinction in here, and we'll also make that distinction on the website where we direct people when they are interested in filing complaints, and on that complaint form that we do provide to the public, letting them know that if a case is initiated on this complaint, then the names are all going to have to be provided to the named educator. Now, if a complaint is not actioned, if it's something that comes in, there's insufficient credible evidence, then we will still be able to redact that information. That will not be provided to the educator. But if it's opened, it will. In both cases, any open records request, any requests that come from the public, we will be able to redact that information. So very few changes in here. If you're looking at the red lines, there's very few changes in there right now, but it does have that impact. As I said, we will also look at this a little bit further to see what additional guidance we can help to provide. Are there any questions about the procedures, the new statute that I can attempt to answer?
Sorry. The question I've received several times is, what is the parameters of immediate family?
So family member is defined in the statute. So KRS 160-145 is that new statute, and it does start out with some definitions. The definition of family member means a parent, brother, sister, son, daughter, aunt, uncle, or grandparent. Parent is also defined as meaning a parent, legal guardian, or other person or agency responsible for a student. So with this requirement that electronic communications, so we are only talking about electronic communications, and the general requirement of the new law is that the sole means for that electronic communication would be the district's designated traceable communication systems. That's going to vary among districts. I know that KSBA has some model policies out there right now that districts are looking at as they're setting that for the start of the school year. And it may also change within the district, like we may use SportsU or one of those applications, Remind, for our sports-related contacts, and then we have our district email and Google Classrooms for our classroom contact. But this does not impact communications, electronic communications with a student and a family member, whether that family member falls under the school employee or volunteer. And then also there is the ability to have a consent form that is on place, and the parent has the ability to consent to their child communicating. So say you have a family member who is not captured under this definition of family, because we know that there are a lot of districts that everybody has some connection to everybody else in that community. You may have some cousins that are teaching in the district that you also are going to need to have that outside communication with. The parent does have the ability to put the consent form, and the district should have some additional procedures available on that.
Can you explain a best practice of one of the consent forms and what that would look like?
I can try. So I do know that the KSBA policy has a consent form with it. They've created a consent form that would go with that. And I know, Scotty, for your role, particularly with the principals and the additional requirements that are placed in this, is that the principals are providing notice to the parents in the school within 10 days of the start of school year about the designated communication systems and the ability to consent. So the consent form is also spelled out in what needs to be included in that is included in the statute, and that it does require the written consent to authorize that communication system or that communication outside of the system. It does have to be filed in the administrative office of the school. It can only designate one school employee, so I could not, say I want my child to talk to teacher A and teacher B. I'd have to file one for teacher A, one for teacher B. And then the parent does have the ability to revoke that at any time. And this is not, the consent form will not impact Nora's process. So if they receive a complaint that there was sexual contact between a student and a teacher and the teacher had a consent form on file, while that does allow the ability to communicate electronically, it still does not allow that inappropriate electronic communication or anything that may stem from that. So it's not a defense in those cases. But really going to want to work with your district level staff to make sure that the traceable communication systems, I think I say that different every time, that they have designated, and the consent form process, and then the directions for parents on how to be able to use those systems to trace communications.
Thank you.
It's an attempt.
I get the school district consent forms. We were talking about this earlier. Who would be the holder if it's outside sources? So like, I teach in one county, go to church in another, and work with the youth group. Who would be the holder of the consent forms? Would it be the organization or the church be the holder of those consent forms? Do I also need to be the holder of the consent forms? I know you did not write this, but I'm trying my best to figure it out.
So I think that is one of the questions that we're seeing coming up, and it's probably something that we are going to see some cleanup on during this next session, because things do get so messy, especially as you are going across district lines there. Because the language is that it shall be filed in the administrative office of the student's school prior to any electronic communication being sent from a school district employee or a volunteer. And so, but if the student's in a different district than you're an employee, and how does that work? And so those are some of the things that do need to be clarified. So I don't have an answer for that one.
Okay, Cassie. All right. Thank you.
Is there a process for notifying the employee if the parent changes their mind and revokes the consent?
That it just says in the statute that the parent may revoke at any time. But that is something for our districts to consider of when they see that notice, hopefully they are contacting the teacher
Yeah, but you're talking about
immediately.
people's livelihood, hopefully.
Well, I think there's a few things to consider there. One, why is that being revoked? Is that something that's needing to be looked into? Have we crossed some lines with that? But then also making sure that the teachers are aware from that. And again, that is going to have to be determined at the district level. With these violations, the statute also states that, and just speaking in the unauthorized electronic communications, not getting into the sexual misconduct or sexual contact, because those are separate offenses. But if we're looking at solely the unauthorized electronic communication, and if there is a complaint that comes to this board that this teacher had an unauthorized electronic communication, you see that and it is truly a mistake, something of, oh, well, we did have consent, that was revoked, I was not told. That's something that this board would be able to take into consideration in determining, is this actually something that warrants action? Is it something that doesn't? same thing on the district level, because the district also has the ability to take action on the employment side. And so if it's truly just we did not properly communicate with this teacher, that there was no longer that ability, there was no inappropriate language, there was nothing problematic other than she just was no longer aware that that was not allowed, that's going to impact their process in that as well. So that is something that we are hoping to, from this board side, because we don't have that authority over the district, but from this board side, to give a little bit of guidance about what you are looking for in these reports, that you don't want to see that, a teacher commented on WKYT's post and then a student started commenting under that teacher's post. Well, that's not the teacher interacting with that student. Now, if the teacher then took that time to go send a private message and we go down another path, that is an issue. But if it's just I made a comment on this public news post and a student posted on it, that's not what's rising to that level of concern there. So I know there is a lot of concern with this. I mean, this is something new. It does have a great intent. That the intent here is to keep children safe, to avoid those inappropriate communications and things that we see. And also, I think some level of protecting teachers as well, of, getting into those communications outside of what a parent is comfortable with. But it does, with everything else, it's going to have some growing pains as we try to figure out how this is implemented. And then I have heard from some others that they will be taking some recommendations the next legislative session for cleanup as well. Bless you.
Bless you.
I mean, I would like to, on record, just say that to echo that, Cassie, I commend the efforts of our legislative body. I think we talk about, as a board, elevating the profession, right? And the intent, I think there's no question, of this bill was very good. Bipartisan support, signature of the governor. But understandably, there is a lot of panic in our profession about these innocent kind of situations, right? The chatter's been lively. Anyone who knows that we serve on this board has probably reached out to one of us, right? As I see the head nods there. So I think some of the things you've shared are good. I look forward to the updated July meeting for some more guidance. I do have a quick clarifying question. The 120-day versus 30-day, and the principal versus super as being the person responsible for reporting, those are specific just to these newer cases of the, right? Or
Yeah, so the
Okay.
120-day timeline was provided. So, 2 sessions ago, the changes in the timelines that were put into place in KRS 161-120 limited that to 30 days for review of a complete complaint. And so that was any complaint. In looking at this legislature did add in 120 days to review those initial complaints that allege unauthorized electronic communication, sexual misconduct, or other sexual contact. So it is specific to those complaints. And the way that this is written, we do still have the ability to process all complaints on that 30-day timeline. But if there is situations where staff needs that additional time for those specific complaints, then they have that ability. With the principal and the responsibility of a principal to report, that is in 160-145, the new statute, where it sets out that if a teacher becomes aware of unauthorized electronic communication, then they are supposed to report that to their principal, and the principal now has the responsibility to report that to EPSB. Now, probably for our principals, the best thing to do is still going to be to report that to their superintendent and make sure that they are doing that as well and have that ability to report. But we do want to give our principals a little more clarity on that and how they can provide those reports. And then, unfortunately, if the principal is the subject of the unauthorized electronic communications, then the teacher would make that report directly to the superintendent, who makes that to the EPSB.
I still can't process in my head how any principal has ever said this in the past, but the fact that we know there's been schools in the past that have allowed use of like Snapchat because to meet students where they are, I'm glad to know that at least an outcome of this is that that will never be an excuse someone can make, that a platform like that where we don't even have access to the contents of things that have been sent will not be ever an acceptable situation. So that's great news.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
Just want to echo
Yes.
exactly what you were saying, and thank you all for your work on this. I know there's going to be a lot of man hours spent trying to charter these waters, but thank you all for this, and it's we appreciate your work on it and protecting our kids and protecting our educators. So thanks.
Okay, so I will need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Coyer. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McKean. So the motion on the floor is to approve the amended procedures. Are there any other discussion, any further discussion? I know we had a lot, but we could probably sit here for another hour talking about this, but I think we have the July meeting to look forward to. Okay, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed say nay. The motion carries. The board is now ready to review waiver request. KRS 161028-1N provides that the board has the authority to waive its administrative regulations when a request is submitted by an applicant for certification, a post-secondary institution, or a superintendent of a local school district. When requesting a waiver, the requesting party must submit to the board a written request along with the appropriate justification for the waiver. EPSB staff reviewed the waivers with the EPSB's waiver committee during an open meeting immediately prior to this meeting, and the waiver committee formulated recommendations. Sharon Salzman will present the waiver request to the board, and the waiver committee chair, Kathy Gunn, will present the committee's recommendation for final action, starting with waiver A presented by Sharon Salzman.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this was submitted by the Office of Career and Technical Education on behalf of an auto technology teacher. The teacher had signed up for spring classes, but due to medical reasons and being in the hospital, he was unable to start the classes. So OCTE is requesting that the EPSB waive the requirement of 6 credit hours for the teacher and issue the 1-year provisional.
Ms. Gunn, did the waiver committee make a recommendation?
Yes, the waiver committee reviewed the waiver request submitted by the Office of Career and Technical Education, and the committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve waiver A.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to approve the waiver. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the waiver is approved. Next, we have waiver B.
This one is also submitted by OCTE on behalf of John Booth, an electricity teacher. In October of 2024, Mr. Booth started the registration process with Gateway College. However, he did not receive information from them until January of 2025. The classes were online and he was given the information but was unable to log into the class. The instructor emailed him back and said it was too late to enter the class and he would email him later with instructions. However, he never received a response. Mr. Booth has now applied to Murray State University for the summer classes, so OCTE is requesting that the EPSB waive the requirement of 6 credit hours for Mr. Booth and issue the 1-year provisional certificate.
Ms. Gunn, does the waiver committee have a recommendation?
Yes, the waiver committee reviewed the waiver request submitted and recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant waiver B.
Thank you, Ms. McKean. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to approve waiver B. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. Moving to waiver C.
This is also submitted by OCTE on behalf of Mark Hill, an engineering technology teacher. Mr. Hill had some personal issues that did not allow him to complete the required 6 credit hours. He enrolled in an incorrect master's program and had to enroll in the correct one. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in General Studies. However, that degree does not count for him as a content-related degree. He is required to obtain at least an associate's degree in engineering or in a career and technical education. He is the NTI, which is the New Teacher Institute 2022 cohort, so his past renewal requirements were met through NTI, and he was not required to take any courses. This is the first year that he was required to have 6 credit hours, and he did not take any courses. So Mr. Hill states he is willing to do whatever it takes to get back on track. So OCT is requesting that the EPSB waive the requirement of 6 credit hours for Mr. Hill and issue the 1-year provisional.
Thank you. Ms. Gunn, what was the waiver committee's recommendation?
The waiver committee recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Perfect. I need a motion.
Make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Motion before the board is to approve waiver C. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. On to waiver D.
All right. Amy Torres is requesting that the school leader's licensure assessment 1010 that she took in January of 2006 substitute for the SLLA 6990 for issuance of the Kentucky Principal Certificate. This score was part of her original Indiana Administrator licensure, but they were not reflected in the documentation that was transferred during her 2009 application. She did relocate to Kentucky from Indiana in July of 2009 and submitted the necessary documentation for a reciprocal license for both teaching and administrative. She believed that her Kentucky certification fully qualified her to serve as a principal until she applied for an assistant principal position and learned that her initial certification did not meet the full criteria and her SLLA scores were not received. A letter from her education preparation provider is included in the documentation verifying she did complete the program and her passing score on the school leader's licensure assessment. So she is requesting that the EPSB allow her previous SLLA scores to meet the testing requirements and issue the professional certificate.
Ms. Gunn, did the waiver committee make a recommendation?
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request, and the waiver committee did not find exceptional circumstances to justify the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that EPSB deny the waiver request.
Thank you. I need a motion.
Motion to deny the waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. The motion before the board is to deny waiver D. Is there any discussion?
I'm looking at faces. Basically, there's a 6-hour option that she can utilize, and so we'll give an opportunity to give us additional documentation.
Thank you for asking the question via face and answering. Is there any other discussion? So again, the motion is to deny the waiver. All those in favor of denying the waiver say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. On to waiver E.
This is submitted by Carroll County Schools. They have been unsuccessful in finding qualified teachers for middle school social studies. This candidate has taught in the district for the past 2 years under an emergency certification. He has been conditionally admitted into an Option 6 program, but needs to complete 4 courses to increase his grade point average to be fully admitted. The district states they have no certified applicants for this position and have posted on their website, Frontline Education, the KEPS Placement Service, Indeed, and on social media. They have also attended career fairs and collaborated with universities to spread the word. So the district is requesting the EPSB waive the number of years an emergency certificate can be offered and issue a 3rd emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Gunn.
The committee recommends that EPSB grant waiver E.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McKean. The motion before the board is to approve the waiver. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. Moving to waiver F.
This one is submitted by Graves County Schools. They have been unsuccessful in finding qualified teachers for an English as a second language position. The candidate has taught in the district for the past 2 years under an emergency certificate. The district has posted the job in the Kentucky Educator Placement Service and had 4 candidates, however, they were not qualified. This candidate has looked at the Option 6 and Option 7, but does not qualify since his degree is in business. The candidate is pursuing the proficiency route and needs to take the praxis exams, but is having issues with his ETS account. So the district states that the candidate will continue to pursue this route until it is completed. So the district is requesting The EPSB waived the number of years an emergency certificate can be issued and issue a third.
Ms. Gunn, what was the committee's recommendation?
The committee recommended that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. I need a motion.
I make the motion to approve.
Ms. Mayfield, a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. The motion before the board is to approve the waiver. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. On to waiver G.
All right, this is submitted by Fayette County Schools on behalf of an out-of-state candidate, and they're requesting a waiver of the GPA requirement for issuance of a professional certificate for teaching Spanish. The candidate completed a teacher preparation program in El Salvador. Her coursework evaluation showed an equivalent GPA of 2.63, just under the required 2.75. She has 7 years of experience out of country and 8 years of experience in Indiana. She also taught for 2 years in Fayette County on an interim certificate. So Fayette County requests the EPSB waive the out-of-state GPA requirement and issue the candidate the full 5-year Kentucky certificate.
Ms. Gunn, if you could share the recommendation.
The committee recommends that EPSB grant waiver G.
Thank you. I need a motion.
Moved.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Motion before the board is to approve the waiver. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. And last, we have waiver H.
Yes. This was submitted by Cody Boggs, who currently holds a Kentucky certification for IECE, but is seeking elementary certification. He graduated in 2014 with a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary from the University of Virginia's College of Wise. He passed all the elementary education Praxis 2 exams except for the mathematics subtest. He took the current elementary education mathematics in February 2025 and passed in the teaching reading in March 2025. EPSB now requires the 5001 series or the 7002 series. He took the Principles of Learning and Teaching in September 2014 and passed. So he is asking the EPSB to allow his previous elementary education Praxis 2 scores to qualify for the issuance of the elementary certificate.
Ms. Gunn?
The waiver committee recommends that EPSB grant waiver H.
Thank you. I need a motion.
Motion to approve the waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. A second.
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to approve the waiver. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion carries. We have 4 alternate route to certification applications. These applications are pursuing the option 1, exceptional work experience route to certification. This is one of the alternate routes established by the legislature in KRS 161048. An applicant with exceptional work experience must have a bachelor's or graduate degree meeting minimum GPA requirements and an academic major or a passing score on the academic content assessment in the area which certification is being sought. The board will need to determine if the applicant's work experience constitutes exceptional work experience. The applications are presented again by Sharon Salzman.
So this one is for Haley Foreman for Business and Marketing Education, grades 5 through 12. She is a seasoned professional with over 5 years of experience in business operations. She excels in managing daily administrative functions, staff supervision, inventory control, analytics, and financial compliance. Her role has encompassed scheduling, student records management, and faculty coordination, ensuring seamless organizational efficiency. She has a strong focus on brand consistency. She oversees the social media platform for accuracy and to enhance community engagement. She also leverages inventory management software to track product usage, anticipate future needs, and drive cost-effective solutions. Ms. Haley has a Bachelor of Business Education, or Business Administration, sorry.
Thank you. At this time, I will need a motion. You may take your time, of course, to read through or ask any follow-up questions first if needed.
I will make a motion not to recommend this waiver, and happy to discuss it when we get to the discussion point.
The motion is to not recommend. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second. So the motion before the board is to deny the application. Any discussion?
I meant to say.
Yeah, it all worked. We knew where we were going.
I appreciate the work experience detail, but unfortunately, knowing the competencies that are necessary for business and marketing, or not business and marketing, the business teacher, this is not the exceptional work experience that would qualify someone to actually be ready to serve in that role for our students.
Any follow-up discussion or questions? Okay, so again, the motion on the floor is to deny the application. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. Next is application B.
This one is for Angel Miller for the area of music, all grades. So Miss Miller has 10 years of music experience. She is a skilled musician in both performance and instructional environments. She is proficient in multiple instruments and committed to artistic excellence. She is skilled in performance practice, recital programming, music history, music theory, conducting, and pedagogy. Dr. Miller has performed for audience up to 3,000 people in diverse concert settings, formal symphonic programs, and community outreach events. She has collaborated with professional musicians in a high-caliber ensemble. She was selected to perform as a solo violinist at a premier multidisciplinary arts festival renowned for its international caliber and artistic excellence. She is also a private music instructor for students of all ages, and she has a Bachelor of Music degree and a Master's of Music degree.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Or if you, again, need more time before a motion. Take the time you need. Or, of course, any follow-up questions before a motion's made to Sharon?
Okay, here I go again. I will make a motion to support this waiver to approve as it's been submitted.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McKean. So the motion before the board is to approve the application. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. Moving on to application C.
This is for Julia Thompson for math grades 5 through 9 and 8-12. She has an extensive background in the field of mathematics as an applied research mathematician for the United States Department of Defense. She conducted advanced mathematical analysis to develop algorithms supporting NSA mission applications and held top secret sensitive compartmented information clearance with full scope polygraph examination and special background investigation. She designed anomaly detection routines for risk assessment and exploratory data analysis. She applied time series analysis to network data utilizing Python in a Linus environment and developed optimized clustering models for intelligence applications. She has delivered presentations to government contractors and prepared briefings for NSA leadership. She has co-authored an internal research pager for the agency's mathematics community. And she has a Bachelor's of Science degree in mathematics and a Master's of Arts degree in mathematics.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the application.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. The motion before the board is to approve the application. Any discussion?
Exceptional work experience.
Yes. And I just needed to look at one page of the thing and look at the font to know it was a mathematician because anyone who studies mathematics at a high level will recognize the type font there. Sorry, nerd moment again. Okay.
Does it let you do special things with formulas?
It's not latex. Latex, is it latex the actual? Okay, yeah, great. Anyway, thank you, Dee. You didn't know she was needed for this part of the meeting too. Yes, she's a pure mathematician there. I'm excited for the opportunity to work with students for her. Okay, so now that I got us distracted, the motion is to approve the application. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And the motion carries. And last, we'll move on to application D.
This is for Amanda Walden, and this is for biology and chemistry, grades 8 through 12. She has over 10 years of experience in the field of biology and chemistry. She is a detail-oriented pharmacist with experience in both hospital and retail settings. She verifies, enters, and oversees the entire prescription process from the reception to the patient release. She prepares chemotherapeutic agents, IV mixtures, and open-heart fluids for surgeries. She handles inventory management and ensures that the pharmacy is following regulatory compliance and operations. She communicates and collaborates with medical staff, patients, and other stakeholders about healthcare and medication concerns. She has a Bachelor of Science degree major, biology and chemistry, and Doctor of Pharmacy degree.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. And was the, to approve?
To approve.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to approve the application. And if you're still taking time, don't feel rushed, but any discussion or further questions?
It truly is exceptional work experience. I'm not ever going to deny that, but there are pedagogy classes available to anybody who wants to take them as you go into this exceptional work experience and are a first-year teacher. I sometimes worry what that moment will be like for you. So would encourage anybody, even our previous candidate, to consider pedagogy classes along the way that may serve to support classroom management in that setting.
It's a very important note. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor to approve the application say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. And the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now open the floor to any board member for general board comments. Does anyone have anything they have not shared already they would like to share? Dr. Fletcher.
I'd like to go back and echo what Dr. Mitchell had said a little bit earlier about the importance of funding internships. If we look at our Kentucky Educator Mentorship Program, going through these alternate roles and the pedagogies that's required in our classrooms and classroom management, things of that nature, I think that's with our alternate route systems, while they're beneficial and needed, but also too, I think it also emphasizes the need for that educator mentorship program. So again, this adds to reasoning. Again, all these people, I have utmost confidence that their districts are going to be supporting them, helping them along the way, but also too, I think that's why funding is so important now more than ever, is because of these alternate certification routes as we go through.
Thank you. Any other comments? I know it's been said many times, but I just again want to thank all the moving pieces for all the different things, because there really have been so many items for our team and stakeholders and various people to work on to make what we do have a chance to be successful. So I just want to echo the thanks for everyone involved in any part of today's meeting. Okay, if there are no additional comments, at this time, I believe we're ready to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61810(1)C and J to conduct a character and fitness review and to review potential actions relating to complaints and reports. The board will also review pending litigation. At this time, I will need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. McKean. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. The motion before the board is to go into closed session. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And we are ready to move into closed session. We will take a 10-minute break. I'd ask that members try to return by 11:17. Okay, at this time, I will need a motion to go into open session.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Second from Ms. Mayfield. The motion before the board is to go back into open session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. And we are back in open session. At this time, we will vote on the items discussed during closed session. I will announce the results of those discussions. For character and fitness, cases 1 and 2 approve with conditions. 3 approve. Substitute character and fitness. 1 defer. 2 approve. Agreed orders 1 through 3 accept. Educator cases 1 through 13, further investigation. 14, dismiss with prejudice. 15, further investigation. 16, initiate a hearing. 17 through 38, dismiss without prejudice. 39, dismiss with prejudice. 40 through 64, dismiss without prejudice. And 65, dismiss with prejudice.
Justin Mitchell, accept on all.
Lori McKeon, recusal on educator cases 12 and 13, yes.
Scotty Collier, yes to all.
Jacqueline Mayfield, yes to all.
Corinne Murphy, yes to all.
Amanda Ellis, yes to all.
Eli Edwards, yes to all.
Kathy Gunn, yes to all.
CJ Fryer, yes to all. At this time, I will need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McKeon. Motion before the board is to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. We are now adjourned.